What does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review and a special Kickstarter review. And today I'm very excited to check out Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done from Tasty Mental Games. This is for 2 to 4 players, take about 40 to 60 minutes to play, and it's for ages, I don't know, about 12 plus. And in Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done, you're going to be taking knights around Europe or somewhere and fighting, and it's a little bit of a point salad rondel style game where you're going to be getting points for doing just about everything in the game. It's pretty light, pretty simple. You're only taking one action on a turn, but is it good? Let's open it up and I'll tell you what I think. I do want to forewarn you that middle part is a little bit longer than I like it to be, but I was trying to explain everything. So let's open it up and check it out. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done. So first and foremost, we have a handy dandy rule booklet. Obviously, I'm assuming yours is not going to look like this. This is the promotional copy. So first and foremost, it's 3 pages, single-sided, and it's lots of text. I will say this needs to be improved before it gets to the final version. Obviously, with pictures and illustrations, maybe a paragraph here or two about how special abilities work and whatnot. But it's still, you're able to figure out the game even with this version of the rules, but they do need to improve that before it gets to you. But luckily, I can probably teach you the game because it's a very straightforward game, actually. Despite the fact it looks incredibly cumbersome and there's lots of different things going on. In actuality, on your turn, you will take one action and you only have 5 choices on the action you can take. So it really is quite a simple game. So in this game, you're going to try and get the most victory points. You're going to do that by taking your knight and going all around Rome or Europe or wherever the heck this place is and fighting bad guys, which are going to be these circles all around the board, building buildings, which are all these little glass pieces down here, which obviously are promotional. And then that's pretty much it. So you're going to get points for building buildings, for mustering troops, for beating bad guys. It's a little bit of a point salad game. Everything is going to score you points except moving. So, normally I go over the components and we get in the gameplay. I'm going to go very loosely over the components and then we will get in the gameplay and show you exactly how it works because it's actually a very simple game at its core. It's just a simple rondel system. So when you first start the game, you are going to get one of these cards. Oh god, don't look at those. Those are Kickstarter stretch goals. You're going to get one of these cards, and this will make it so that every character is asymmetrical and every character will have their own unique special ability. So normally in a rondel game, when you pick up cubes, you're going to go bloop, bloop, you're going to drop them clockwise. So if you have this special ability right here, you could go clockwise or counterclockwise. This guy is going to start with 3 upgraded abilities, and I'll tell you about the upgraded abilities a little bit later. This guy is going to start with only 6 cubes, but he already starts pretty good at everything, so he's going to get a +1 to everything. So each character is going to be a little bit different. Now, you're going to take your knight, and you're going to place them in one of these spots that has a little knight spot right there. And I'll tell you all about that later, but let's focus on the player board first. I got the green one all set up, so let's take a look at the blue one. So first, you're going to have 5 different actions you'll be able to take in the game. You'll be able to travel, crusade, influence, build, and muster. That is all you are going to do in this game. You're going to do that over and over and over again. And I'm going to go through each one of those actions in a minute, but I just wanted to show you that this is the board, and each one is going to have a little tile that is on here, because one of the actions you'll be able to take is to upgrade it, and I'll show you how the upgrade system works in a little bit. Now, moving on to the right side, you're going to be able to build buildings, and this is a little bit like Kingsburg. As you go to the further to the right, you are going to get better buildings that will give you better special abilities, and they're also going to have a raised cost. However, you have to build from the left to the right. You can't just say, oh, I've got this enough to build this, so I'm going to build this right here. No, you have to go boom, 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 and then boom. So all my glass pieces start on here, and when you take the glass piece off, that represents that you build that building. When you build buildings, it's going to give you victory points equal to the number on the left, and also the cost to build them is this number right here. So every one is going to start costing you 3, and then 5, 7, 9, 4, 5, 6. And once again, as you go to the right, it will progressively get more expensive. Up here, you're going to have 5 troops, and these troops are the muster action, and they're going to allow you to better fight things better, but we'll talk about that later. I don't want to go over your head real fast because there is a lot of stuff going on in here. So that is going to be your player board. This is a typical board set up right here. I've got all my cubes out here. I got my action markers. I got my little glass pieces. I'm ready to go. Last thing I want to mention is in this game, at the end of the game, you're going to score points for all the points that you have, which you'll earn throughout the game. You're going to score points for any of the buildings on the far right that you've unlocked. So once you get all the way to the 4th building, they're just going to give you victory points for various different things. And you're going to get victory points for killing bad guys, because all these circles out here are bad guys. And so if you have the most blue bad guys killed, then you're going to get 5 points. If there's a tie, then you'll get 3 points, and so on and so forth. Which, by the way, this is ingenious. These cards are fantastic. More games need this, because so often when you get to that point where it's like, oh, there's a tie for this victory condition, who gets it? I just like those cards. So we set ourselves up. Let's go ahead and I'll show you. I'll run you through a few turns and it'll make a lot of sense. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to show you the different actions and exactly what you do on your turn. Because on your turn, you will choose one and only one action. And it'll be one of the actions down here. So the first action I'm going to do is I'm going to build. So I am right here, I'm green, and I will be able to build. So I have 2 build cubes right here, which means I can build something that costs 2. However, unfortunately, everything, as I reminded you, is going to cost at least 3. Now, luckily, I am on a spot all the way up here, which is going to be -1 to farms and to castles. Let me see if I can grab you one so you can see. So, for instance, this one right here is -1 to farms, and if you build a farm, you'll also get an extra victory point. So, knowing that I'm -1 to farms and -1 to castle, I'm going to take the build action, and I'm going to build myself a farm. So, I would do the build action. So, I pick up both these cubes, and I go boom, boom, drop them clockwise. I'm going to place this right here on my spot, and now I'm going to collect 1 victory point because I built a level 1 building. And that's my entire turn. Yeah, you got that right. That's the entire turn right there. Now, since I built this level 1 barn, I'm going to be able to add +1 to my muster for the rest of the game. So just pretend that whenever I do the muster action, it is +1. So as you progressively go to the right, they're going to get better. So now let's just say the purple person takes their turn and it's back to me. So I'm on this spot, there's nobody to fight, I've already built something there, so now I kind of want to travel. So I'm going to take the travel action, which once again is going to be at the top, and it's also going to be at the bottom. So I'll take this travel action right here, and I can move up to 3 spaces because I have 3 cubes right there. But you know what? I don't want to go 3 spaces, I only want to go 1 space. So I move myself 1 space right there. Now how does movement work? Movement's very simple. To go from square to square, or hex to hex, or whatever shape that is, it's going to cost you 1 movement. But if you're ever leaving a space with a bad guy, which are these circles, it's going to cost you 2 movement. So if I went from here to there, that would cost me 2 movement. So I'm going right here. I spent 1 travel, but I still take all of my travel cubes, either from the top or from the bottom. I'm going to choose the top right now. And go 1, 2, 3, just like that. That's my entire turn once again. So that would be the travel action. So now I'm sitting here, it gets back to my turn, purple took their turn, and I'm going to say, what can I do? I've got a couple options here, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to do what's called the muster action. So muster means that you're trying to get troops to fight for you. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to muster. I have 3 in the muster 3 muster cubes over here. Plus, since I have the farm, as we unlocked a little bit earlier, I'm actually at +4 muster, which means I can unlock this guy right here. Boom. Because he has a 3 on him. Now, granted, I could unlock this 4 one, but that's not a legal move. You have to work from left to right in this game, with the buildings and with the muster. So I would just flip this over, bada bing, and I'd go muster, muster, muster. I would put my cubes over, and I would gain 1 victory point since I was able to muster the level 1 troop. Now, why do I want to have this level 1 troop? I'll show you in a second. So, it gets back to my turn, and I'm looking at the stuff on the board, and I'm saying, wow, I have 4 on this influence right here, so I take the influence action. Influence action is very simple. It is just victory points. So I get 1, 2, 3, 4 victory points. So I'll take this 5, put back a 1, and that's a great turn. So influence, pure and simple, is just going to give you victory points. The last action that you can take is Crusade. So let's say on my next turn, I go ahead and I travel. So boop, I travel too, so I go, right here. Now, how does fighting bad guys work? The fighting the bad guys system is very, very simple. How it works is, this is the Crusade action. And right now, I have 5 cubes on my Crusade, which is a lot of cubes. How many do I need to defeat the person here? Well, you look over here on the strength track. So right now, the yellow one is at a strength of 3, the blue one is at a strength of 3, and you can see it all the way up there, the red one is persistently always at a strength of 6. And I'll talk about the red one last because they're the most unique. So for this, I'm going to do the Crusade action. I have 5, which I don't even need. I only need 3, so I'm going to just blast this guy. So one here, one here, one here. Once again, rondelling. Even though I only used 3 attack to defeat this guy, I still move all 5 of the cubes. And I have now defeated this person. I put this in front of me for potential endgame scoring. I'm going to gain 3 points because that was their current strength. So 1, 2, 3. And then the strength track on this one is going to go down 1, which means the more you fight the bad guys, the stronger they get, and also the more victory points that you will gain. One more thing that I want to mention is that when you go to a space, you don't fight the bad guys immediately. That has to be your next turn. Also, you don't have to fight the bad guys. Let's just say I went here next turn. I don't want to fight them and I just want to move. Boom, I can travel again. You are never obligated to fight the bad guys. But that is the Crusade action. It's going to allow you to defeat bad guys. And it's very deterministic combat. You just have to meet the number over here on the right. Now, the red bad guys are a little bit different. So let's say I decide to travel. So boom, I got travel over here and 1. And then let's just pretend that I had a whole bunch on the Crusade right here. So, if you would like to defeat the red ones, how this works is you have to have at least 6 attack. Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier that I mustered this guy. Actually, let's do this example right here. This is a perfect example. So I have 5 Crusade points right here, which is not enough because, as we mentioned, this has a strength of 6. However, since I mustered, this is a +1 forever to my Crusade because I now have an extra fighter, which means I have the 6 attack that I need in order to defeat this guy. Now, these ones each have their own unique symbol on the back, and if you defeat these guys, they go in front of you, like so, but they also allow you to immediately place a building there. So I would immediately get to put a castle there, which is great. I would earn this guy, which I can now move around the board, and I will also earn the 1 point for building a level 1 building. But that's not all, because in addition to that, actually that is all. That is all. So I would just use my rondel. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I would rinse, wash, and repeat. So that's it. Those are all the actions. You can travel, you can crusade to fight people, you can influence, which is going to gain you points, you can build, which is going to allow you to build things, and then you can muster, which is going to give you more troops, which will give you more crusade. Nearly all of them, aside from travel, will get you points. One last thing that I want to mention are all these various different tiles. So there are tons and tons of these tiles out here you will set up at the beginning of the game. This is just what the city or country or village it is wants. So for instance, if I built this bank here, I'm going to get 2 additional victory points. Or instead, I could also build a church or a farm at a -1. And they do stack on top of each other. So sometimes you'll get some really nice stacks going. You're going to continue to go until you are completely out of victory points, at which point you will finish out the round. You'll tally up victory points. You'll figure out who has won first place and second place, defeating various different bad guys. They'll get those points. You'll see if you have any points from unlocking a 4th building over here. And then whoever has the most points will be the winner of the game. But I almost forgot one more thing, which is the upgrading actions, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. So each tile is double-sided, and for the most part, you're going to start on this side. However, if you decide that there's nothing really good to do on your turn, you're like, oh man, this turn is just not looking so good for me, nothing looks really good, then the best option for you most of the time is to upgrade a tile. So let's just say I upgraded this one. If I did that, instead of taking my turn, I would still move my cubes around the rondel, but then I would flip this. So now, whenever I have tiles here, whenever I have cubes here, I can crusade or I can build, which means you're going to have a lot more freedom on the actions you take, and you can be a little bit more, you can worry a little bit less about where your cubes are on the board. And one thing I like graphic design-wise is it shows you right here what the other action is on there. But anywho, that, in a nutshell, is what you're going to do in Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done. Alright then, Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done from Tasty Mitchell Games. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the cons side, game's not going to be for everybody for a variety of different reasons. 2 to 4 players, restricted player count. And it has I do like it at 4 players. I do, but I will say I liked it best at 2 and 3 players. And it has a little bit of a race for the galaxy-esque vibe. Because once you know what you're doing in this game, the turns go by incredibly quick. It's just, I'm doing this, I'm mustering, I'm traveling, I'm crusading. It's just your turns go by incredibly fast. And with 4 players, there's just more downtime between turns than you would like. Because there's not too much player interaction in this game, which is another thing I want to mention. There's not much player interaction in this game at all. Yes, you can go to spots and you can steal things from people if you see that they're not going to be able to do it on their next turn. But aside from that, there's just not that much player interaction in this game, which will be a turnoff to some people. Now, component-wise, obviously it's prototype components for the most part, but I will say the rules definitely do need some work, even in their current form. They need pictures, they need illustrations, they need to clarify a few things about the special races and abilities, or the special asymmetrical abilities you start with. So if you're a stickler for that sort of thing, I might recommend taking a look at a PDF before you're backing it, if they're able to do that. But that being said, the rule booklet is not terrible. It's just something that I think does need improvement. Also, setup for the game. Oh my gosh, you're going to be setting up and 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 setting up. And I hate that, but at the same time, it's a necessary evil because I actually do like how each board is. Each game is going to be a little bit different because, hey, you might score 3 victory points for building a castle here. There might be reds on this side and blues on this side and yellows on here. It does make each game a little bit different, which is great. But the setup time is a little bit longer than you're going to want to be, especially if you're teaching the game after you set up the game. Because you need to set everything up and then teach it, which is another con. That while the game itself is a very simple game, as I stressed in the middle part, you have 5 actions you can take on your turn. You only get to take 1 action per turn. There's only 5 choices you're going to make the entire game. 6 technically if you count upgrading. It's still, you need to teach the game. It's a little bit of a difficult game to teach. Just because you really need to just show people. This is how you travel. This is how you muster. This is how this works. This is how this works. So it's a little bit more difficult to teach than some people might like. With that being said, once you know the game, once it clicks, it's a very simple game. You probably won't consult the rule booklets again, maybe once or twice throughout the entire game. Another comment I have with this game is that the asymmetrical special abilities, they feel slightly in balance, but not so much that they feel in balance. It's just that some feel like they're in better hands if you have more experience with the game. I would like to see maybe like a little color-coded dot on there. So say, this is a great card for someone whose first time is playing the game. Say, for instance, the person who automatically at the beginning of the game just upgrades 3 of their action wedges. That is fantastic for everybody, but specifically, if this is your first time playing the game, that's going to be much easier for you to utilize than, say, the guy that can go clockwise or counterclockwise, or the guy that can drop a cube in his current spot before he starts his rondel, dropping cubes. So I just wish it was a little bit more user-friendly for some of them. Because I did have someone, I actually had 2 people who mentioned this, who they had special abilities, and they didn't start using them until halfway through the game because they didn't really understand them as much as they would have liked. And that is on me, partially, because I didn't explain it as well as I should have, but that's also because I was busy explaining everything else in the game and how everything kind of connects together. Any other cons I have with the game? Oh, the theme. Yeah, what the hell's the theme about? I don't know. You're a knight, you're going around stabbing people, blue guys, yellow guys, red guys give you buildings, getting victory points. You go around Europe. I don't know. The theme doesn't make any sense to me. Now, that could be my ignorance of this particular time period, but it also just, and I ask other people, the theme doesn't connect with the mechanisms, which, whatever. Kind of expect that. Oh, last comment I have with this game is that it's 40 to 60 minutes, which will be a turnoff to some people. When some people hear rondel, it's just like, oh yeah, this is going to set my brain on fire. And I personally love that. Like, take Zolkin or something like that. I think it's a fantastic game. It's got a rondel system. That is much, much heavier than this game. This is kind of like my first rondel, which will be a turnoff to some people. That's what I got on the con. Sounds like I hate the game. I don't. I really, really like this game, especially at 2 and 3 players. I think it is a fantastic 2 and 3 players, and I think it's a good 4-player game that I definitely can recommend. And there's a lot to like about this game. So first and foremost, I love rondels. I love rondels, and I love rondels that set my brain on fire, like I mentioned a little bit earlier with Zolkin. This one does not do that, and I like that as well because I feel like it's a nice introductory game to the rondel system. I also like how everything worked. It reminded me of a lot of different games. For instance, building the buildings reminded me a little bit of Kingsburg, which I liked that. It had the rondel. It had the simple accent selection, which I liked an awful lot. I also liked how you were consistently gaining points Everything you did in this game gains you points except for traveling. You build a building, hooray, here's points. You kill people, hooray, here's points. You go over here and you muster, hooray, here's points. And now you're stronger so you can kill more people and gain more points. Hey, you do the influence, hooray, here's points. Oh, you build a church, hooray, there's even an extra point for doing that. And I like that. I like the fact that this game is not going to let you do everything you want as well, which is going to annoy some people. But I really like the fact that you might be like, yeah, I'm going to upgrade this one completely, and I'm going to upgrade this one completely, and you're probably not going to do either of those things. The game does have some difficult choices from time to time. Most of the time, the choices are simple to make, but they're just not choices that you want to make. And I don't know what I'm trying to say here. That's a good thing. It's one of those games where the choices you make from turn to turn to turn are kind of like, I could do this, which will be better for me now, but I could also do this other action, which is not going to be as good for me now, but it will be better for me a turn from now. I also like how the upgrading works a lot. Upgrading things is super freaking important, and you don't want to do it, though, because you want to take turns, you want to move, you want to build, you want to muster, and you don't want to just sit there on the bench and be like, Coach, put me in! But you're like, no, you need to upgrade, 'cause it's going to help you in the long run, and it really does. But I like those sort of choices, and I like this game. I think it's a really cool game. I think there's just lots and lots of moving parts that come together very well in this game, and I think it's a very clever game that I can easily recommend, especially at 2 or 3 players. That is Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done from Tasty Minstrel Games. Like it an awful lot. Yeah. If it looks like it might be your cup of tea, be sure to check out that Kickstarter link down below and in the comments below. Let me know, does this type of theme appeal to you? Going around the Mediterranean Sea and building farms and stabbing people? Me personally, hell no. I don't know what's going on. No, this theme doesn't appeal to me. But does it appeal to you? Does it appeal to anyone out there? Or is it just me? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.